What's up, guys? I'm John Evans. I coach many of the highest jumpers in the world, one of which is this guy, Isaiah Rivera. He's got a 50.5-inch vertical. And hello. In today's podcast, I hope you guys missed us. We didn't get the podcast on Friday. Isaiah had a crazy week. So, we're coming back to you live on Monday midday. Um, but we're going to be talking about total training load and how that impacts your ability to adapt or how fatigued you get and things along those lines. So this was kind of inspired by a video that I saw by an Australian strength coach. I can't even remember what his Instagram thing was. Did I send it to you, Isaiah? I think I
No.
might have. So basically, it was talking about how the mountain, what's his name, like Bjorn, I don't even remember his
Yeah,
name,
it's something
but
like that.
he plays the mountain in Game of Thrones, if you guys are familiar with that, and essentially goes into how he trains. And it really just says he comes in, he squats like 400 kilos, like works up to that or something, and then does some leg extensions. And then he talks about his daughter and how she can do, if she did that same session, it wouldn't nearly be enough training load to really elicit meaningful adaptation, which I very much agree with. And it kind of brought this conversation of total training load to the forefront of something that I was thinking about relating to Isaiah and myself. So, what you kind of need to understand about this, I guess maybe some like background about this, is when I was at Athletic Lab in 2016, I always noticed that the women track and field athletes, that I guess it was even earlier than that, might have been like when I was in high school. So from like 2010 or 2016, something that I'd frequently see pop up is that female track and field athletes can handle a lot more training volume. And when you think about it, that makes sense because their overall outputs are significantly lower. So, for example, someone's bone might be able to handle a ton of output, right? Like any given bone can handle a ton of compression. And when you have more force, though, that bone is liable to break, whether it's a man or a woman. Same thing with a tendon or something else, right? Like these tissues have a given capacity to handle tolerance. And when you're really, really forceful and you generate a ton of force in the muscle, you're at a higher risk of damaging those tissues in terms of absolutes, not relative. So, like if I'm at 100% and Isaiah's at 100%, guess who's at a higher risk of getting hurt? Him. Why? Because there's more weight on the bar. And that's true of powerlifters, that's true of Olympic weightlifters. And it changes the total training volume that you should give an athlete or an individual. Like if I'm Sam Sulek, right? And I can do and this applies to like just globally. This is true. If I can bicep curl, I don't know, what do you think you can bicep curl? Like 200 pounds or something like that for reps?
Oh,
I don't even
yeah.
know. So let's just say it's like 200 pounds for reps. He is going to get way more of a stimulus from doing that. Like let's say we both do 4x10 at the same percentage, but he's, in terms of his relative 70%, he might be moving like 135 and I'm moving like 65 or I don't know, 85 for 10 reps. Probably, I don't even know if I could do that. Let's say 70 pounds on a barbell curl. He's going to elicit way more stress on his tissue, or maybe like I would probably say like neurally, there's going to be more of a load. In terms of the tendon, there's going to be more of a load, and maybe he does have more capacity. It's just in terms of absolutes, there is way more physiological stress in what he's doing than what I'm doing, and this is amplified when you get to something like a back squat or a power clean. Like in those cases, your max power or back squat, Isaiah, is deep ass to grass. What do you think is on the belt squat? Like 365, we think, or something,
Yeah.
370.
Yeah,
So
365.
now let's say on a barbell, it's what, 415, 425 in that range right now,
425.
probably.
Yeah.
I think on a good day, you could probably hit that. So
Yeah.
my best on a barbell back squat, and I don't even get to the same depth, but let's equate depth. So let's say like just below parallel or something like that. I might be able to hit 300, 315, 325 in that range. Isaiah's probably hitting 450 to 500 in that range, probably.
Mm-hmm.
So, though that is a massive discrepancy in total load, right? Like we could do the same exact session and we have very similar training ages, right? So, I mean, obviously his vertical is a lot higher, but his overall workload is going to be way, way higher. Like load volume is going to be way higher. And so as a result, he's going to need longer recovery timelines. He's going to need longer periods of rest, probably between sets. He's going to need longer sessions. He's going to need better recovery, And the only way that I'm even going to get close to the level of total systemic fatigue that he has is if I'm adding a bunch of accessory work to get to the same level of like biological or physiological fatigue. So I was thinking about this on like Friday night, and I was just texting Isaiah about it, and he was like, dude, I feel terrible from the squats. Like I'm dreading them, and it feels like that. So go on, like what your response was to, what I just said, and then what I was talking about the other day.
I think specifically I said, I'm gonna search this phrase so I can pull up the conversation. No, I said that's why I want to off myself so much nowadays.
Not actually, but well,
So,
maybe.
so I'll paraphrase what we said. You said, saw a post about absolute training load and thought about you, and then I asked how come, and then you said your absolute loads are higher than like 99.9% of people. That's why John has to add so much volume. I can't even get high enough intensities, even if it's at the same percentage. You're moving so much more weight. And I said, oh yeah, that's why I want to off myself so much nowadays compared to back in the day when I wasn't as strong. And what I was thinking when I said that, I remember workouts from 2019 specifically when I first started training like
Hard. Maybe
right?
earlier.
Not load
Oh, no, that's right.
management.
Yeah.
It
2019. Yeah.
wasn't not load management. Like basically like we got rid of all the limitations and just started training just THP zero load management.
Right.
And the workouts were so much more manageable, even if the volumes, like if on paper, if you were to look at it, my volumes have actually probably gotten higher from that point, like a tiny bit higher.
You're
But
saying compared to now?
yeah, but if you compare a similar workout, let's say I did 6x3 power clean, 6x4 back squat at the same percentages, the sprints at the beginning, that same workout is so much harder. Even though on paper it's the same exact workout, the percentages were the same, the sets were the same, the reps are the same. Like I just get freaking trashed nowadays.
It reminds me of one of my buddies, Paul Womer. I asked him once, I was having a conversation with him, and I was like, oh, you're still moving 70% or something like that. He goes, yeah, it's 70%, but it's still 405 on my back. And that put it in perspective. He's like, just because I'm stronger doesn't mean it doesn't feel heavy as quote unquote, doesn't mean it doesn't feel heavy as fuck. And
Yeah.
it kind of like was eye opening. I was like, oh, just because his relative percentage is the same doesn't mean it doesn't feel just as heavy as 500 pounds would feel on my back. Like if I put 500 pounds on my back, it would feel like it was crushing me. It still feels like it's crushing him. He can just stand it up. And I think that kind of put things in perspective for me at the time. Like it was very eye opening, and it kind of relates back to what I was saying about female athletes. Like they're very volume, they're not volume averse. They can handle a ton of volume without seeing crazy decrements in performance. And that was true at Duke. Like when I was at Duke, some of those female athletes could hammer volume. I mean, they would just absolutely eat up all the sprint volume in the world. And if I gave that same sprint volume to, some of my athletes that were faster, or like, the even for the men's side, if they tried to do that same volume, they have a little injuries pop up. They would have issues with hamstrings. They wouldn't run as fast. Like they need heavier unloads because they're faster and the forces are higher and the muscular, fatigue is more significant, and the metabolic byproducts are probably, I mean, that's maybe equated a little bit, but it's like the overall, what would you call that? Kinematics and kinetics are significantly higher, right? The forces and velocities. And
Yeah.
there's a consequence to that. I always like this term, unintended consequences. You're not going to be able to handle as much. And it's even more true. Like when I was at Altus, those guys were incredibly volume averse. Like any level of volume in the weight room would just destroy their sprinting. And so I basically looked at the weight room at the time and I thought it was like a joke compared to what I would program for other guys. Looking back, it makes more sense, but like Greg Rutherford, going in and doing like 3 sets of 3 step ups at, 250 kilos or whatever the hell it was. I don't even know. And then power cleaning and then leaving after long jumping like once or twice into the pit or doing some run throughs. I'm like, what the hell? Like, that's it. That's all you did. And you'll hear that a lot with elite guys. They're like, less is more as you get better because your outputs are just so high where like to push that intensity, you don't have the luxury of doing a lot of other stuff. Whereas when you're a worse athlete like myself, or like even multis to some extent, compared to like Usain Bolt, they can eat up volumes because the forces are just lower, right? Like an elite high jumper gets to way higher outputs. Fabian's a great example of this. You know, we did a review and we did realize like he needs more volume, but we also came to the conclusion like you have overall less because your outputs are so high. Like he's box squatting 275 kilos for 3. He's power cleaning 100. He's hang power cleaning with high pulls, like 6 sets of 3 at 135 to 145 kilos. That's like 315 plus, you know? He's doing sprints at 6'9", 210, like running 10-meter fly times of 10 meters per second. You know, he's running really fast especially for his size. And it's really prevalent whenever I see him high jump and do high jump sessions. Like he gets fatigued after like 3 jumps and he's like, I can't, like my quality's just dropped. And it's really interesting. And I think as you've gotten better, I've also seen that happen. Like
My sessions aren't long, like my dunk sessions.
And you never get to truly 100% often because the risk is so high and it's really hard to get to a point where you're at, you know, like 100%. So the risk is higher. The unintended consequences, like the fatigue is more significant. I think more than ever, you've noticed that this year. Like in the past, we used to think, oh, dunk sessions are like, you can manage them once a week, or you used to be able to do them 2-3 times a week. Now it's like,
you know what's nuts, bro? I'm thinking it's the last few times I've played basketball, I've noticed I've been really trashed. Like it leaves me really trashed. But I am dunking, like, you know, between games, I'm dunking during the games and stuff like that. And looking back at the videos, I'm still jumping. Like I did a one-hander this last session where Joe threw me a lob and I was like this on the rim, like with my hand up. So I'm jumping like 47, 48. That's still really high. Like sessions in 2019 would have been like 44, 45 probably would have been my cluster. And then my best days ever are 47, 48. Now I'm hitting 47, 48 for 90% of my jumps in a session. Mid-game, I'm probably hitting similar outputs to that. And I think that's why I'm so much more fatigued. Even playing defense, like I noticed I was playing better defense and not getting as tired by just not trying as hard. Like, like it's yeah. I think the outputs are just insanely freaking high.
So you feel like it's like in this kind of is being corroborated by you? It's like a 99 mile an hour fastball, you know, coming at your bat and you're hitting home runs. Like you're pinging off the ground a lot harder and you feel it more. Like you just, you know, it's not like, you can also think about on a more extreme level, like football. When you're 17 or when you're 13 years old, you know, hits don't hurt as bad as when you're 21, 22. You know, now you're getting your bell rung, you're going to feel it a lot for a while. You're going to be sore all week, essentially, you know? And I think you look at injury rates and things like that in every league, and that's the case because guys are bigger, guys are faster. Despite what other people say, specifically with the NFL, maybe not as much basketball, but it's way bigger, it's way faster, it's way harder hitting, and the consequences that is can't really do as much. I think the NBA seems like it's downsizing a little bit, so maybe that's changing. Like it's not like the game is dominated by guys like Shaq anymore. You know, I guess maybe in the sense that Wemby is like, but he's more mobile. You know what I mean? Like he's lighter. He's not as big as heavy as Shaq was, I would say. So the game is shifting more towards very high mobility in terms of like movement, you know, I would say, and not just like feeding the post. Maybe in the sense that they're just like shooting more threes is a little bit different, but smaller players are able to be on the court and like get away with it. I would say that now guys are more slender, more mobile, more cardiorespiratory fit. You're not seeing just massive players like Yao Ming and stuff like that. Just big old fatties in the paint. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if you agree with that, but it's, and then load management I think is also changing it. But yeah, there's the consequences nonetheless as you get bigger, faster, more explosive are going to be more, what would you say, like detrimental to your health?
Yeah. I think this week is gonna be really enlightening.
Why do you say that?
Just the how hard I trained this last month. I think I got after it really freaking hard.
You think you're going
And
to unload like quite a
this is
bit?
one of the hardest cycles mentally to like keep showing up and keep pushing hard. Like it was, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was the loads or whatever, but yeah, I'm curious if that will be beneficial because it's like how much of it is the training load thing? How much of the training load thing is just being soft, right? Like,
I don't think
like,
that's the case.
I'm curious, like how much there's some of that, I think, in a way. I think most people like have you heard that Marine or is it the Marine? No, it's the SEALs. The SEALs quote where they're like,
Oh yeah,
when
what
you
you
feel like
once,
quitting, you're really at 1% of your actual capacity.
the last time I followed that, I almost had I did have a heat stroke, a minor heat stroke. So, I
I
personally, I
forgot
can
about
relate.
that. I hit you with that quote.
Bro, mid 100-degree day in North Carolina, running on blacktop. Isaiah hits me with this quote. I'm like, I don't feel so good. Isaiah's like, you know what the Marines or the Navy SEAls say? When you think you're done, you're really only at like 50%. And I was like, you're right. So my ass ran as hard as I could up this hill. And then I just started vomiting and shitting my brains out and purging myself of everything because my internal temp was literally cooking me from the inside out. And wasn't good. Wasn't a good day for
You need
John.
to upgrade that cooling system, man. Get a nice fat intercooler in your body.
Bro, I don't know what happened. I just know I got very ill.
I've seen it happen multiple times with you in the heat. Like,
Yeah, I like actually get really hot. I think I don't know what it was. There was like I think I just don't rest and I go really hard and I'm on blacktop sometimes. And then I like after like 10 reps, I'm like, I do not feel good. And then I'll just get really sick.
yeah. No, I still I question that sometimes. How much of it is being a little B
With
word
yourself or other people though?
with myself specifically. Like,
I've never seen you throw up.
I've never thrown up working out, bro. The closest I ever got to was high school conditioning, and
I think
the coach literally said, he's gonna keep everybody has to vomit. Like that was the thing. Like he's gonna run us until we puke. And I got really close. Everybody like freaking dropped like flies, and it was me and one of my best friends. His name is Thomas. He was a beast, bro. He was like one of the most talented distance runners I've ever met in my life. But he loved basketball, and we always trained together.
this is
And
in
during
Utah or
conditioning,
Florida.
yeah, this is in Utah. And me and it would always be me and him at the end of every like running drill, like outlasting everybody. And then everybody had puked, and it was just us two, and the coach just ended it. He was like, "All right, like you guys are done." I was legit about to go puke. Like if I had run like one more down and back, it would have been over. But that was the closest. I've gotten sick before, like a little nauseous, but not enough to puke after that. Like I was still pretty far away from it, but maybe I am soft. If I haven't puked, I might be
I don't
soft.
think so. Also, I wanted to let it be known that since the 40s, basketball has increased by about 4 to 5 inches in height, average height, until the 1990s, and then with positionless basketball and the three becoming kind of more popular, and not necessarily the 90s, but since the 90s, it started to trend downwards. Just saying,
Bro,
kind of interesting.
I had a dream about my 40-yard dash, and apparently it was fast as hell. Like the way we measured it, apparently nobody measures like that.
No one does measure it like that. I've said
And then
that.
like they started testing like all these like the fastest NFL players, and they were all running 4.9 with our testing
They
method.
might. I don't know. I might have to check that out. That might be
We
a good.
should
That might be
we
a
we
good.
would be able to, right? You just look at the first frame and start moving, and then
Yeah,
time
but
it.
all these videos are 24 frames per second because that's what they use in cinematic frame rates. They're not using high frame. Well, maybe no, they're not using high frame rates. I've looked at them before.
Yeah.
But no, I think you are faster than you think. It's just I measure you in a very challenging environment. I think on a free lap you'd probably run a 40 in like 4.6.
Yeah.
I really think so. Probably 4.65, I would assume. Cody Bidlow runs like a 4.4, I think, something like, or 4 something low. Like he's,
Yeah.
I don't remember what it is. I'd have to ask him. Anyways, we feel like it's a good place to cut it off. If you guys are interested in getting coaching, we should have done this at the beginning, but we're doing it at the end.
You always forget.
I know. I tried to remember this time, and I got most of the checkpoints that I try to do, but I forgot this time. Go to THPStrength.com. We're really passionate about it. We love what we do. I take a lot of pride in kind of obsessing over this and making it my entire character and personality trait.
Yeah.
I've had to since stop doing it quite as much because my brother thinks it's detrimental to my development as a human, but all of you believe otherwise. So yeah, thank you guys for listening this far along. And if you guys are, like I said, interested, it's $126 or something like that a month right now. But if you get a 6 month or 1 year, it's a lot cheaper. So I encourage that anyways. That's where you're going to see the most progress. And the biggest thing I preach to you guys is consistency. Stay the course and you'll definitely get better. So, all right. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.
So.